You know, you keep reading in Luke and you find out that Jesus opens up the scriptures in Isaiah and he says, the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. Ever wonder how Jesus spoke with such power and authority? As he preaches, the people that have known him since he was a little kid go, isn't this Joseph's son? What's up with him? Don't miss it. For 30 years, he wasn't preaching with power and authority. He got the Spirit of God on him, and he's preaching with power and authority. Why? Because Jesus is showing us how the human life is to be lived. Jesus is showing us how powerful preaching takes place. Jesus is showing us that when the Spirit of God comes on men and women, they can proclaim with power the greatness and goodness of our God in such a way that people will go, who is this? And we'll have to say, it's not me. It's Christ in me by His Spirit proclaiming to you. That's what's going on. And I want to offer to you, if you want to be effective in proclaiming the gospel, you must be full of the Spirit. You must be anointed by the Spirit. You don't just go proclaim the gospel with power without the power. What are you thinking? You need to be filled. You need to be led. You need to be anointed. Some of you guys are going, man, he went wacko on us. Last year, he wasn't this crazy. I'm going to tell you, I am a charismatic, and you better be too. Because if you don't have the Spirit of God, I don't know what you're doing. Intellect alone will not save people. The Spirit must. You know, we fast forward a little bit in Clay's life, and I'll just tell you honestly, there's days when I get frustrated, and I tell my wife the other day, like, why isn't he reading the Bible, and what's going on? He seems like he's drifting, and this was right before something took place. One morning, I was praying for him. My wife, this is the beauty of my wife. My wife is a Spirit-filled woman, so she said, hey, remember you were telling everybody that maybe you should just pray for Clay and, ask the Spirit to do it? I said, yeah, you teach on that all the time, don't you? Yeah, I do. She said, why don't you pray? So that morning, this was after we had this conversation. I wake up that morning, I'm praying for Clay, and I'm driving home from a meeting. It's pretty early in the morning, and I see fire trucks and ambulances passing by me. And I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And the first thought in my mind is, I wonder if Clay's okay. So I follow them, and I notice they turn down his street, and I follow them down his street, and they're parked right in front of his house, and his wife is outside sobbing, and I get out of the car quickly, and I say, Christy, what's going on? What's happening? And I said, is it Clay? And she just falls on my shoulder and starts weeping. I said, what's going on? She said, Clay. And I said, did he do something? What's wrong? And she said, he came out of the house this morning with Emma, our daughter, and the woman across the street came out screaming and yelling. The man that she lives with was hanging from a rope in the garage. And Clay ran in there, and Clay found him, and Clay tells me the story later. Clay found him hanging from a rope, and he says his hair was jet black, his face was bright red. He had no life in him. And Clay tried to get him off the rope, and he felt like an 800-pound man, even though he's 180 pounds. And there was some kind of demonic force going on in that room. And he couldn't get him up, but he found some scissors. It seemed like there was a light on him. He sat over in the room. He saw him, grabbed him, cut him down, grabbed him, started pumping his chest, doing CPR, doing everything he could to get the guy to be revived, and nothing worked. He said in that moment, he just started praying, Jesus, if it's time, just take him home, but if not, would you bring life back to him right now? And he said a wind blew right into the garage, and he felt it go right past him, and all of a sudden the guy just started breathing, and he came back to life. Amazing! This is Clay, who isn't that great at following Jesus. Okay? I just want to make sure that's clear. And not some crazy healer. This is a normal guy who's just figuring out what it means to follow Jesus, to learn to follow Jesus. He hasn't figured hardly anything out yet. But the Spirit of God came on him and did a marvelous thing in that moment.